Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Neil, Elijah, Father of a Stolen Child, Brian's Logic, Adam, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Afternoon, everyone. Bye.
Don't mention the day.
You see, you don't listen to Nathan. He asks to not mention a day, and you just mention it every time. Bad, bad, bad.
Anyway, let's not dwell on it.
If I mention the day and you bring it up, then that's a topic of discussion. So
I didn't bring it up, but let's bring up any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature.
Not on this Thursday.
Oh my god.
Or
Probably going out on Sunday.
Or any other Thursday. It's a
live,
really weak argument.
Oh, weak.
Depends. I can't stop this. The tirade's going to just continue if I try and prevent it. Earth curve edges, anybody?
No.
But they used to say it blocked boats and buildings and stuff.
Yeah, then they found out it was optical.
Not geometric. Wow.
Well, you can, if you want, you can match your coordinates to all the coordinates that they give you on things like time and date. And your coordinates will match a globe, but you won't get any proof of a geometric horizon for this globe. Just letting you know.
Here, I could prove it to you, Nathan. I was trying to do it in the pre-show. When the navigator uses a sextant, they have to line it up with the horizon that can be seen on that particular day. Sometimes the weather is really nice and you've seen pictures of the sea horizon and just no clouds, no nothing, right? You see far. Other days it's fogged in and you can only see a couple of 100 feet in front of you as the horizon. So they have that as the baseline 0. That's your 180 line that has to be horizontal. Then you've got your star or moon or sun or whatever wandering planet you're shooting. Okay, they like you to not to use the wandering planets as much as the stationary stars that move with the whole sky. So you line it up to that. Then you've got straight above you is your zenith, and you get your angle. Now, they shoot stars that are 3, 4, 5, 6,000 miles away. That horizontal straight line that's on the top of the ocean has to go that full distance for that angle to be true. Or it can't go like their orthographic drawings that show a small tangent plane line and then a zenith position going down to the center of the Earth. That whole line has to go the full 6,000 miles flat 180. That's the only way you get your angle. But if the Earth is curving, which it's not, it won't work. So the sextant can't work unless that's one straight tangent line all the way 6,000 miles out. So do you see 6,000 miles? No. The 15 degrees below, there's too much stuff in the air and real refraction affects it. So even the navigation tools say don't shoot stars under 15 degrees because you got too much stuff in the air. So just shoot above that, and that way you'll have a precise reading. And there you go.
So you're saying it's got to be flat?
Has to be all the way. Look, when they do it from the center of the Earth. Does that line from the center of the Earth, where the two lines meet, make a corner, make the vertex at the center of the radius? Does that line ever curve until it hits the surface of the Earth? No, it's always straight. Well, if you're doing it from the surface, it's got to stay straight too. And guess where they're shooting it from? The surface. The whole idea is that the only place in a circle you could even get a vertex is a central angle, the radius. But no one. You have to prove we're living on a ball that's spinning and that you're shooting it from there. Who goes to the center of the Earth and shoots two straight lines?
Death, man, you just don't understand circumdicular geometry.
No, I understand.
Well,
How
actually,
real-
they're not.
Obviously, they're not is right. So the sextant proves that horizon, even when we can't see past a certain point, it's still straight and level.
But see, the thing about this is, what they're doing is they're imagining that they're doing something outside of reality while they're just using reality. That's all they're doing, isn't it? They're using reality, which is a straight line to the horizon, and another straight line up, and they're taking in their zenith. They have their zenith, they have their zenith and a horizontal to the horizon, perpendicular. They're hitting an angle there from then.
Right, but in their
between the horizon and the quant. Sorry.
No, but in their model of their heliocentric Earth that they want to push on us, there's curvature. Well, when does that curvature start? Well, at 1 foot high, it's 1.22 miles. Guess where you're supposed to do your dip correction for a sextant? You go to the level of the water. You're not even 1 foot above the water. You're at the water level. Now, where's the geometric horizon on their curved Earth? It's got to be a lot closer than 1.22 miles because you're taking it from the top of the water. That's the dip correction angle for a sextant. If you're 9 feet above the ocean on a sailboat using your sextant, you minus 9 feet in your calculations to get that straight horizontal line, your 180, and then wherever the angle of your star is and where the 2 points meet of that line, that's your angle. But their Earth curves away, so that angle, if it curved, you can't get an angle. If that line on the ocean curved, you can't get that angle for a star 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 miles away.
Yeah, they have to work in an imaginary model into a reality situation. That's what they always have to do.
Well, Nathan said it best the other day. They doing it on the flat surface, and then they're reifying it and saying it's coming from the center of the Earth.
Yeah.
Got to get an angle from somewhere. And as we're being told currently in the comment section, spheres don't have edges. Well, they've got to acquire one from somewhere. And they acquire a tangent plane by way of presupposing a line called a zenith to the centre of the Earth at a radius of 3959. From there, they can draw out the angles from that straight line to the centre of the presupposed spherical Earth, and then beg the question of a horizon to give them a tangent plane, and then map it all out flat. But so long as they've made those steps in the first instance to presuppose that their zenith points to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, it doesn't matter that they're actually plotting it out on a flat surface. Because that's what they're supposed to be doing, right? It's on a tangent plane. So yeah, it's spherical, but we're going to treat it as flat.
Yep.
Excellent.
Well, if spheres don't have edges, which they don't, then how would you use a sextant on it? You couldn't. The whole point of a sextant is that you have to make a right angle. You can't make a right angle on a curve.
Yeah, guess what, Brian? The sextant does work.
It's got to be flat.
For thousands of years.
It does work, and that proves where it's a flat plane.
Yeah. When you check Wiki, right, with regards to Earth's radius, after they explain all the different models, spherical, ellipsoid, all of that, there's a section in there that says, although you can disregard the model because in practical application, they only use sea level. So there you have it.
Right. And they'll have no shame in saying it too. Well, we use sea level. Level, you say? Yeah, but level doesn't mean level. Right, Jose Ramos is having a moan at me via Super Chat, so thank you very much for the Super Chat. When it comes to YouTube banning people, Nathan acts as a globetard. The only way you can see this is if I pay. I'm a nobody, and I'm shadow banned. Okay, I haven't banned you. So, my bad. Not intentionally, or not by me. So if one of the mods has banned you, I'm sure they had a good reason. But thank you for the super chat.
Nathan, I got a picture of Masterby. If you put it up, I found this very interesting. Saw it yesterday.
Sure. And then we'll move on to a few more housekeeping questions. Been a couple of shows that we didn't get through all of them, which is okay, but nice to actually do that. Bring it up. Okay, got a picture of a lake, right?
Yeah. Okay. So you see this lake, the mountain, and then you see the reflection on the water. And it was interesting. It's the first time I saw someone do this. And then they said that yellow line, if you draw right where you think those pictures, the reflection starts on the bottom versus the actual above the water image, that's your horizon. And it's the same distance. I have to finish the video, but I thought this was pretty interesting that you can use a reflection, right? This almost I have to see if this is how that artificial horizon works in a sense. I have to see if it's got some of the same components. I'm not certain though.
Just a gyro, isn't it?
I don't know, I just never seen someone use a picture of a reflection, a perfect still water, perfect reflection, the mountain peak, like he took A, that peak is also A at the bottom with that little sign next to it. So it's perfectly reflected. And then he says, where would the horizon be? And then he draws that red line. I was saying, wow, that's an interesting way of figuring out where the horizon is.
Yeah, because it's an optical effect as opposed to a physical geometric sphere edge horizon called Earth curve. So let's round this out. The horizon is not Earth curve. Any evidence of an axial rotation? Earth-based.
No, we don't experience 15-degree drift of any kind. If we were spinning, we would see it.
50 degrees of what?
15.
15 degrees of what?
Drift.
No.
What drift?
That's what I'm saying. What drift?
No, that's a description of what?
Of
15
anything not on
degrees
the
of
Earth.
drift?
Of anything not attached to the Earth.
No, of the radius. Radial rotation.
We
Which
killed that
radius?
in the previous question.
I sing it on the intro to As the World Turns, the soap opera.
Yeah, I remember that. That's
New
right.
one. It's been used.
Bum, 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 bum.
What's the
They
guy's
forgot
name?
to turn it on in the old NASA footage where they were shooting from the so-called outer space, and Earth wasn't turning until they turned on the motion.
Right.
There's a guy who made videos, parodies of flat earthers and the drama as opposed to the arguments that would take place in the flat earth quote-unquote community, and he called it As the Earth Turns. I just can't remember his bloody name. It's about 4 years ago. Smaller YouTuber who still hangs around occasionally. It'll come to me.
They'll all end up in the general hospital.
Well, the reason we don't.
Well, no.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Somebody in my chat today said that it was close.
How did I know?
So I said, how close?
Well, it's close today, or it's closer today,
Closer
or
than
it's
you-
always close.
No, he just said, no, the
Closer
sun
than
is
you
very
think.
close to us. I says, okay. So where is it then?
Tangible.
Like, can you point on a map where it is?
Above the map somewhere.
Oh yeah, on a map, above a map. It's basically making things Euclidean. So where is it?
What, the intangible object in the sky that moves as you move towards it, that hasn't got a location. An apparent location is not a physical, actual location.
Right. It's like asking somebody looking at a 3D picture where you have to cross your eyes slightly and you see a three-dimensional shape in there. It's like, okay, so exactly where in space is this three-dimensional object you see right
Good
now?
example. Yeah, good example. You see all the blurry mess on a 2D picture, It's just a mess of wibbly wobbly colours. And as you focus, it becomes an image, right? And then somebody says, give me the depth, give me the centimetre value to the back of the guy's head if it's a picture of somebody, like a portrait that emerges from this blur of colour. Well, you can't give a centimetre distance to it, right? Because it's completely intangible. It's just an optical effect. Well, the sun, that's about as much as we can say with certitude. It's an optical effect. But what do we know about it? Well, very little. That's the answer. So how far is it? Well, we don't know, do we?
Nope.
Well, when you watch soap operas, you do get a clean view.
Oh, that was not that great.
Wow.
All right, sorry.
Now,
I'll try better. I'll try better next time.
That's what that is.
I disappointed 10th man. I feel bad now. My whole goal for the rest of the day is to redeem myself.
Okay, rinse and
10th
repeat.
Man. Don't let it be. Right.
Maybe call yourself 10th pun.
Let's move on. Let's move on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
None whatsoever.
What is gravity?
Well,
There was a pilot. Hold on. There was a pilot on 24/7 Discord late last night, and very interesting the things he said. The
What'd he
flight
say?
simulator, when he was in, the way they have the flight simulator, they have a drastic arc, like curve on the horizon. And then when you get out into real flight, you notice that it looks different than in there. You know, so he was really touching on some good things. You got to listen to it if you get a chance. The pilot of one of them big
Where would we listen to that, Neil?
planes.
24/7 Discord,
Yeah.
he said.
Okay.
Cutting in, I think it's illegal. You cut in his mic, by the way, when you're talking. I know it's tempting to nod along when people are talking, but it just cuts the mic. Anyway, so no then. Scientific thereof.
Did you see my latest video, Nathan? On
damn it, no, I didn't.
Well, it's causing a bit of bother with the borders because I just pointed out, because I said it several times, but a good few times before, but saying it is not the same as making a video about it. So I made a video about the fact that Isaac Newton, the word gravity didn't exist in his time. He wrote the Principia in Latin. He used the word masse, not mass, or missa, is another word for mass, which basically describes a bulk of something, which would have been there's a couple of different descriptions for that, or different definitions for that in Latin, but like there is in English, but the one he was referring to was a bulk, like a bulk of something, and gravitas, which means weight. He used the word vires or impetu, which means force. But he was talking about weight as a force, like his laws of motion and other things. So he was talking about force, but a weight as a force, or weight causing a force. He never, ever assigned a cause to weight, which is what gravity is. Like gravity is a force. 160 or out of date gravity. He never assigned that. That came along afterwards. It was an English translation of his Principia that came out after he died. The start and that stuff. That's when that started. It's supposed to have come out just after he died, but I have a feeling that that's not true. It came out a long time after he died. But it doesn't really matter because he wasn't alive at the time. So it's all based around the actual definition of the words that he used in his Principia, and not the nonsense that the ballers come on with. And they're not happy with me at all.
So basically, a very rough analogy, what happened with Newton is kind of what happened with Jesus after the Catholic Church came into being.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. Guess what? They're doing it.
My subscriptions feed, I've had to go to your channel to find it. So I said no because I'm typically the first to watch your videos. As you know, I always comment, try and always comment on them. And I was like, oh, new Brian's Logic video. I'd expect to see that in my subscriptions feed, as you're one of the few channels I actually intentionally watch almost immediately when the video's released. Yeah, it's not in my subscriptions feed. So I've just gone to your channel. I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't seen that. And I scrolled through I thought I'll double check before I say it. I scrolled through the subscriptions feed just to see if I've just missed it. I just happened to have missed it, and no, it's not there. So they didn't punt that one to me, Brian. So I'm sorry. I rely on my subscription feed to let me know when people I'm subscribed to release a video, and it's not there. So I've just put a link. I'll just put it in a couple more times in the live stream chat. Hopefully people will go and check it out, as will I, because I haven't, but I will.
Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, I'm getting hidden. That's what's going on with YouTube. They're just not promoting me. Obviously, there's certain words I'm using. The same maybe the video before that. I don't know if you saw that one where I talk about I can't how inertia debunks a force of no origin is the name of it. That's getting a lot of negative off the ballers too. I have a lot more ballers coming in attacking me and commenting than I do have flat earthers. So it's like as if it's being shared to the ballers more than it is to the likes of yourself. So
that's good news.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, check it out if you're in the live stream.
Thank you.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No, but that's called your name is ringing bells. Like if you're a tough guy and you're doing things like these guys are tough guys making these videos and ballers are going crazy, your names are ringing bells all over the place.
Yeah, if you're a high-profile person you come out with that, then suddenly Neil deGrasse Tyson will pay you a visit.
Who are we expecting to pay a visit to? Someone corrected me on this, actually. I said, oh, Mick Jagger will be getting a visit from Neil deGrasse Tyson then. But
yes.
No, from what I had, I think it's Anaconda Malt Liquor explained to me in the comment section that no, after being interviewed, he's saying that he's actually mocking all of the words he used, Q-tards and flat earthers and anti-vaxxers.
You could believe that if you want.
Mocking them. Now, I watched, because I thought I'll get a take on, another take on it, and Russian vids is always all over these things like flies on the proverbial dog doo-doo. So I checked out Russian vids' take on it, and he is sort of halfway in between. He's sort of saying that, yes, Jagger and Grohl are both very much part of that world, i.e. puppets, which I probably agree with to a certain degree. But like with everything that he punts, Russian vids that is, he's saying it's 99% deception and they throw the 1% truth in there. But that's all it is. So you think, okay, so it's easily spinnable into the negative, but by the same token, Russian vids' take on it is just, yeah, they're going to mention things that are truthful mixed in with all the other garbage, because that's what they do. And he's right, that is what they do.
Right, they're using it mockingly as a jewel to draw in attention. The thing is, though, it's true. So it doesn't matter what they think about it or say they think about it. They're just getting away with it, with actually giving a virtue signal to truthers, even if they deny it. So it doesn't matter what he thinks. He's just skating the fence.
Okay, can you all stop
skating the fence. Could fall off any moment, but he's doing it.
I would suggest it does matter. It's significant. Even if you accept, and I quite happily do that, you know, it's a controlled narrative, particularly old rockers like that. The point is, it's still in there. So first they mock you. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. The stage has begun to the point that a megastar like Mick Jagger has put it in there. It's part of the narrative now, and they're dealing with it. And so it's a positive for me. Yeah. Whatever spin they want to put on it in terms of how they then justify why they mentioned it, so they don't get ridiculed, it doesn't matter. It's in there now.
Isn't that the process?
That's my point too.
The process of acceptance is to ridicule, violently oppose, and then accept as being obvious to everybody.
Right, and then they get the opportunity. See, look, yeah, we couldn't say that we believed it, but it needed to be out there, and then they're gonna get all the glory.
Yeah, that's like Jagger will be the great. Yeah, I knew it was gonna be out there, so I mentioned it. Like,
well, I don't understand.
Yeah, with that voice, exactly.
Well, George Harrison says, while my guitar gently weeps, he says, I look at the world and I notice it's turning. That's not true, because you don't notice anything turning. That's an outright lie.
Isn't that though what the likes of Rumpus and them do? They fight against something that's an absolute fact when it's eventually pointed out to them, right, in no uncertain terms by people on their own side, let's say Veritasium, which gravity is not a force, even though Rumpus and them still haven't accepted that. They fight against it. And then when they accept it, they start telling you that they were telling you all about it all along, when they were never telling anyone anything. They are the idiots. You know what I mean? Isn't that true?
Well, that seems to be the path of FE.
Yeah.
If you ask me, that's, when it was originally released, if you will, back in 2014, 2015, if you want to call that the YouTube entry, because it's been around forever, obviously. The Earth is obviously unobservably flat, always was, always will be. But in terms of the prevalence in a world that believes it's a sphere, for us, it's sort of that sort of time. But people immediately jumped on the idea that, no, this is a psyop, sort of a controlled opposition narrative. Now, that came from both people who didn't believe that the Earth was flat and people who knew that it was. They both were of, not everybody, but there was equal amounts of people on both sides that are saying this is being put out for a reason by the powers that should not be. Now, whether or not there are any powers that should not be beyond the ones that they tell us about, I don't know. If there's a hidden hand, I don't care either. Because I know the nature of my reality, and that's really all I'm concerned about, as selfish as that may seem. But the point is that it could be very well the case that this has been put into the commonplace setting that we all experience on a daily basis, be it advertising or YouTube or television, because that is the world we live in, and eventually that will come out. So you've got to retain some control over how it comes out. Otherwise there could be panic, a load of pandemonium, people rebelling, and you can't, if you're a control system like government, then you've got to keep control. So maybe the way to do that is to put it out in a certain way and have a plan in the way that it's being done. In which case, we're all just pawns, and we're just part of that process, making it all seem very pathetic. Because eventually, we will just be cast to one side as Mick Jaggers and people like, and go, "Yeah, we knew all along." I won't do another Mick Jagger impression.
That's correct, Nathan.
The second impression weren't as good as the first, Nathan, but I thought that was quite a good.
Well, I said that was one of the benefits of heliocentrism, that it keeps the maniacs contained.
That's true. Keeps people under control. And, and that's just the purpose of government. That's what it's for. So if that particular religion is particularly good at keeping people under control, keeping their viewpoint nihilistic, then that's advantageous to people who want to keep us all nicely herded and under control. Well, once you accept that, if you haven't got something in place that's going to replace it, then that could be a problem if you want to keep people under control. So the chances are there are measures in place that our world's going to be changed in terms of the paradigm or prevalent Western world religion, because that's all we have.
Well, what does government mean?
The etymology, mind control.
Govern the mental, right? The mind?
Yeah, to govern the mind, to control the mind. Yeah, that's the etymology. But the modern meaning means what it means in terms of what the common man views it as. Now, that also has lots of words that mean control within the definition, but, it is what it is, and you can assess whether or not there's a hidden hand behind government or whether they're just doing what they do, and often it's very much out there, right? We're in 2021 now, for anybody who comes back to this after the fact, and we've just gone through a whole series of lockdowns across the world, and that was very much open and overt, and people knew what was being done, and were told that it was being done, and people did it. Well, it's not so easy when you've got a whole bunch of government, what do you call them, branches that are literally deceiving the world about the world. Well, you've got to scale that down over time, and descending it into a kind of kid show farce, which is what they seem to be doing, making it to the point where, I don't know, to a degree they've got SpaceX doing them this favour as well, making it look so poor that your general member of the public will laugh at it initially. you know, and then after the fact, maybe we get told that Starman or whatever he is actually supposed to be out in space. And they go, no, really? But that's the reaction you need. People to sort of chuckle at the idea that you've got these religious views out there in the form of CGI and Starman out in a car in space. But you need people to have a little chuckle about it first before they can relinquish that paradigm without there being a cognitive break that causes people pain, too much pain. And they're going to want to get answers that they might not have. And, you know, I don't know, I'm saying all this with the assumption, working under the assumption that it is a psyop and there is a plan in place, and that, like you say, that the reason it makes its way into the mainstream and is being discussed over the bar in EastEnders in our soap operas is because it's going to eventually get out anyway, and they've just got to figure a way of getting it to be ridiculed, violently opposed, and then accepted as being observably obvious for everyone all along anyway. So that does take time. But then again, maybe I'm putting too much, in this particular devil's advocate way, too much emphasis on the fact that there's a plan behind all of this. Maybe there isn't.
Nathan, I think the plan at this moment is, you know, it's real because it looks so fake. I think that's the extent of the plan.
Wouldn't that be your earliest stages? If you're going to relinquish a whole paradigm, you start off by, you know, hinting at the idea with a bit of reverse psychology. So, you know, it's real because it looks so fake is just reverse psychology, if you ask me.
Right. I don't think they really have a structural strategy for beyond that. Right.
Check it out. The one person I thought would be behind me playing devil's advocate for a claim that there's a psyop behind Flat Earth would be Pete Shea, who was literally the person I had in mind when I was saying there's people on both sides who say this. And he's in there in the chat saying Nathan's bullshitting. No, I'm playing devil's advocate for an argument you make, Pete. Ugh, I could spit.
That's unacceptable. So now he has to oppose your opinion again.
Oh, right. So because
Nathan,
I've played,
we all work for you. And what's his name, Mr. Boss, David Weiss? Don't you know that?
Yeah, that's a farcical narrative that's come because of people like Pete Shea saying it's a psyop, controlled narrative. We're all paid agents. We're all actors. So we were like, okay, yeah, okay, we are. Dave Weiss is in charge of all of us. Why not?
We are paid agents. Donate to the super chat right now.
Well, there's another possibility too. I don't have a better word for it, but the principalities. What if you wanted to create an army? You'd have to turn everyone into nihilists first, and that's what heliocentrism does. So once everyone's nihilistic in their approach, if you take that away, it could get violent.
Well, I know for a good chunk of people who come to the realization that the Earth is flat, certainly for myself, the contemplation of a creator is pretty much lockstep with it. You know, it follows almost immediately after for a lot of people. That's why there's so many God botherers in this arena. No offense to any God botherers, but, you know, that's why. Because suddenly your nihilistic viewpoint's shot out of the window, because what are you going to rely on in terms of the vast cosmos of space and the infinite existence of nothing, the ever-expanding blah, blah, blah. You know, all of those things leave you in a nihilistic outlook, and that's not going to be great if you suddenly realise that, no, this could have only been created. Where are you going to go from that? You suddenly start looking a bit more internally. Or you brace against it, and I think a lot of the time that's possibly, I'm just speculating, why people do brace against it. I say that they've got too many skeletons in their closet, and when you come to the idea that we might be in a very much contained system, this is it. This is it for us. Well, that makes us a lot more special, but it means that you can't just get away with thinking, it doesn't matter. We're an insignificant speck of dust in an ever-expanding soup of nothingness. So who cares? You know, like you say, that's good for making an army, though.
Right, but that army, well, you can then convince that army that they are imprisoned here.
I think that's the breaking point for a lot of people who even look into it. They get to the point where they realize or have to confront that there is a God. the ontological primitives, and it becomes unavoidable. But at the very core of their being, they just do not want to accept reality, or cannot accept reality, or are so far along involved in the delusion that they've been taught and believe in now that they simply don't want anything else. It's a very, very touchy subject, obviously, but I think delusion is a huge part of it. And I see this a lot when talking with people. It sucks to see, but at the end of the day, if people are delusional about very simple facts of reality, there's not much you can do for them, and it's just going to be mental pain for them the rest of the time.
Couldn't agree more.
Why do
very,
people
very well
embrace
said.
delusion? It's because they can't handle the truth, whatever it may be, in order for them to move in that direction and step away from reality.
There's also a lot of self-assessment that you don't have to do if you're in a nihilistic world. So, that sort of looking at the mirror at what you actually are, definitely not fun if you're a narcissist, which is a very small percentage, maybe 1 in 20 people. So the majority of them are going to be more like what you've described than what I've described. Scared of the mirror is going to be those monsters. And the rest of the world are just so delusional that they don't want to let that go. And perhaps also peppered with the fact that they have themselves ridiculed flat earthers and don't want to be a part of that if they're considered that. So just read out this.
Oh, no doubt.
Right, that's also part of handling the truth, by the way, yourself.
Say again?
Watching yourself in the mirror and seeing who you're really looking at is also part of confronting, handling the truth. So, there's a lot of people that have built up quite a lot of difficulties with that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm driving at. You've got to have a certain amount of self-assessment. And when I say the skeletons in the closet, it's the things that you think, it didn't matter. How I treated that person, or how I behaved in this particular circumstance, or whatever. Those sorts of considerations you can put to the back of your mind if you think that it's all for nothing and you live in an empty world and you're a tiny speck of dust in it. Well, if you suddenly realise that, as you put it, you can put the spin on that we're trapped here or imprisoned here, those are very negative spin. If I view it as, no, we live in a very special place with a beautiful balance of harmony and equilibrium and order and chaos all at the same time. It's a magical, marvellous, incredible place that we live in, and it's very special. And likewise, there's a huge amount of influence I can have over the world that I live in. There's also a huge amount of joy that I can take from it. Now, if I focus on the hive mind that is the Western world and how everybody else takes in their environment, then I'd be as depressed as they are, the globeheads, that is. And that's why in the pre-show I'm saying, well, I don't care. If one of our own, as Neil was describing, says, oh, well, I'm in two minds now, I think Earth might be a sphere. Neil's question to me was, would you care? Well, no, not really, because that's their bag, not mine. I'm at peace with my monsters, to speak to Arwen's point, and I had to face them. Find out flat Earth is real, and you go, okay, that logically follows that there's going to be a creator. I don't like that, and I rebelled against it because I didn't want to assess any of those horrible monsters. I now know what my demons are. But nobody wants to face their own demons, and it's much easier not to when you're in a heliocentric world. Anyway, I've got to read out the super chat, so thank you very much indeed to Kevlar. Fear is their weapon, but knowledge is a more powerful weapon. Thank you, Nathan, and the rest of the panel for keeping us armed with knowledge. Oh, wow, thank you very much indeed. That's quite touching. Thank you, Kevlar, for the super chat as well. Much appreciated. Also, LV23, which gives me money. Really appreciate it. A lot of money too, $25. Wow, thank you very much indeed. Really, really appreciate it.
You are now officially a paid agent for today, Nathan.
I'm also a trained actor. That's what I did at college.
Right.
But if Pete thinks
so
I'm
Pete
joking,
Shea was
right
that. After all.
Well, just Pete calls me a paid actor. I'm like, no, I run a show that's a debating show, so there's no scripts, there's no acting. Now, you could say you're putting on an act. In other words, I've got a certain persona, reality doesn't really match with that either, because I'm pretty much exactly the same stroppy bastard when I'm not on camera or doing the show, or the same joyous person as I am now, as I'm in a very good mood, having just got a brand new mattress and slept really well last night. It's one of those. But Pete wants to presume that there's a psyop going on, despite the fact that he was talking about me bullshitting earlier.
Go back to sleep.
Say again.
Go back to sleep. Shut up.
Trying to sleep.
Go back to sleep in your new bed.
Oh, right.
I have another thought. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just a quick thought on the psyop thing. Maybe that is part of the bargaining stage, if you will. Because I feel like it's just kind of absurd on one hand to go down that route, especially given all of the very blunt facts about the nature of our world. I mean, I suppose you could poke at it a bit, but at the end of the day, it's just a lack of acceptance and trying to bargain for, it just not being true. It's that not wanting to face it.
On a psychological level, we've been trained as kids to lie, not just to people, but to ourselves. Like think about like, the story of Santa Claus. It's like, at some point you had to accept that the people that you loved lied to you about something you thought was real, and then you cope with it. They don't say, well, I can't really say what your parent, like, I'm sorry for lying to you. I don't know what they've done, but I'm saying it's a conditioning. So when people come in here and we're like, what's wrong with you? Like, do you realize what you're saying? Perhaps not, because they don't have the thing that's inside of me that says, well, I'm lying. It's almost like that thing has been deactivated within us as children.
Yeah, I totally.
You might be on
It's a very good point.
I have a comment. My parents definitely apologized to me for lying when they told me it wasn't real. And then they asked me, shall we still continue the play of it like a culture? I was like, yeah, of course. I don't want to miss out. But they definitely apologized for lying about it.
I think it's a very good point on account of the fact that it took a lot of discussion between my wife and I in terms of how we would approach such things. And we came to the conclusion, as you're detailing, that it would be better not to lie. In other words, yeah, we still have Santa Claus, but we are in no way lying to her about what Santa Claus is. And in many instances, it's useful to teach them certain allegories. So in terms of things like monsters, you can turn those into allegories about how it's comparable to people. Some people are bad, things like that. Well, you can spin it in terms of the celebration and how we're celebrating and how we'll imagine that Santa's coming to give you the presents, things like that. So personally, obviously I'm not going to decry anybody who just tells their kids Santa's real, but I'd prefer, with my kids at least, and I don't lie to them. Just tell them like it is. They're not stupid.
Yep.
They'll still enjoy
I never
Santa.
told my kids about Santa. Never. I didn't want to share the glory with some big fat guy in a red suit. I let them know I worked my butt off to buy you these gifts.
Right.
I'm putting Santa Claus's name.
All my Christmas presents say from Dad. They don't say from Santa. All my Christmas presents say from Dad. You're not going to take my credit.
Well, this is what I mean. But like, when you're a child, you don't have the cognitive skills to stand up to a lie. So you're conditioned to accept it. The Santa story, you go to school and they start telling you you live on a globe, and then you go, well, how does that work? You're telling me people are upside down? Well, gravity. What? So you're saying we're stuck, but I don't feel, you mean like magnets, but I don't feel like I'm like all of the things that a child will bring up, like all of that is snuffed out at a very young age. And I think this is why people don't understand how to deal with, cognitive dissonance.
Yes. I think that's why I had an advantage, because I was homeschooled for half my life and went to public school for half my life. And so I feel like I got the best of both worlds, because the first half was homeschooled, second half was public school. So like I got the individual attention I needed, and critical thinking, and then I wanted the social aspect of school. That's why I wanted to go to school. So yeah, so it was like.
Well, that sounds like the better order, at least. To start out homeschooling close to the parent when there's still all this like primal magic in there and the telepathy, so that doesn't get disrupted at an early age. And then later, like, okay, now you're going to have to face kind of a little bit more about society and what they want you to know.
Yeah, but you can get that elsewhere. You don't have to get it in a school.
Right.
Well, that's interesting.
As long as they're
because
mentally
I still-
prepared for it, that it's different, that like these are not your parents. Like they have to be there and understand that.
Right, but back.
Yeah, I think that anybody open to the idea of flat Earth has a certain like wiring of their brain, and how you get your brain wired that way, I don't know. It maybe not one thing, but there is a correlation between how our brains are wired and how we are more open-minded and not like these other globers.
I'm telling you, man, it's the ability to tell the truth. It literally, because again, we think about lying to others, but we're not considering when people lie to themselves. People do it all the time. What would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? A 10, knowing damn well you look like a dog. Come on, like we lie to ourselves all the time.
Yeah, it's ego.
Do you know?
That's ego self.
Well, it's the ability to stick up for truth, to actually defend it and not get gaslit. I think that this is probably one of the skills that we as, well, flat earth debaters right here tend to underestimate with the rest of the world out there, is that gaslighting can be really tough on people. Like they may have supreme difficulty defending against. It's very torturous to them because they haven't developed all this. They haven't developed all this security knowledge. They never got to that. They still rely on just the web of whatever is information soup is coming towards them. And they're prone to gaslighting compared to us. And we get all the psychological warfare as well. So we develop skin against it. Most people don't get confronted with that level.
Well, we're talking about the observably obvious versus what you're told and taught. So therefore, it's a difference in critical thinking versus comprehension. You're told Earth's a sphere, but you can critically think and analyse and assess your surroundings and come to the conclusion that it's obviously and observably flat, as declared by a lot of heliocentric priests, as a justification for why we don't see it being a sphere. Because it's obviously so flat from your ground position. Well, okay, so it's obviously and observably flat, as conceded by both sides, but yet you're told completely the contrary. Now, if you've gone through a comprehensive education system, you're taught how to comprehend and regurgitate. Well, that's a very useful way of training somebody at a very early age, because those ideas are going to be cemented in their cognition for the rest of their life, unless they're critical thinkers, as opposed to workers.
What's funny is I think that the correlation between any student that went to school and caused disruption, like I always ask questions and caused a disruption and got in trouble in school because I asked questions. And I think there's a correlation between the people that were in school that asked those questions and the people that didn't, and where we are now.
Correct. That's basically everyone on the panel. I'm not going to regurgitate my story of exactly that, but I know there's a story from pretty much every single person on the G Plus panel about how they were kicked out of classes for being disruptive because they were questioning the education they would get rather than comprehending it.
Right.
Big difference.
Indeed.
Yep. Same here.
I think we are. Everybody here are the kids in school that question those things. So there are two types of people: the ones that questioned and the ones that just went along. And I think everybody here and everybody that's open to this idea.
Permanent seat back there. The nuns used to just point, and I would walk there.
That doesn't surprise me. Educated by nuns.
No, Neil. No. I can't see that, Neil. Never.
No,
Is there
Neil,
some
the C
point where
order
that
hasn't
questioning
changed
should
on the show
never
either.
or should stop?
Oh, Paul, you were the discussion of the pre-show. I'm going to get to you in a second after this super chat. Shout out to Godzilla37. The truth is hated by those who take comfort in lies. TY. Oh, thank you for the show, Nathan. Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for the super chat, Godzilla. So you were being slagged off by Neil.
I heard a piece of it. Didn't hear it all, but I heard a piece of it. But let me ask my question, though, because it's relevant to everything. At what point should you stop questioning?
Never.
Never?
When
When
you're
So
you,
all
when you
positions.
know the truth, what's the point questioning after that? You don't go and keep on asking sort of question
Exactly.
about
Once
something
you
that you
know
know
the
is
earth
true.
is flat, once you know the
No,
earth is flat,
I
why
would
ask
argue
it?
that even if you think you know the truth, to be open to you being wrong and there being other truth. Like you could be wrong.
It's not true
Right.
then.
No,
Do you know what I mean? Either
no,
something is
no,
true or
no,
it's
no.
not.
No, you're not.
That's
You're
what-
not going to come across some truth and then find another truth that voids
Exactly.
that truth. That's not
Yeah.
even how it works.
How many truths you got here?
That's not how it works. Here's
What, the
what
earth
we're dealing with.
obviously
We're dealing with
observably
if
triangular?
things.
Two people talking.
We're
Just Elijah. Thank you.
we're dealing with if things exist in reality, and we're dealing with if what someone is claiming is true. Those are the only two things that we have to deal with in this reality. Whether someone's telling the truth about something or whether or not it exists and can be validated to exist.
Okay, well,
Or
I was
verified
We're
to
talking
exist.
about flat earth, though.
Go on, Neil, and
It's
then
either flat or it's not. What's the story? And we all know
Well,
that it's
see, I
obviously observably, and Nathan now says
don't know.
measurably.
yeah.
Is
So
there a
this is-
ball or
Okay, hold on, everyone, hold on.
No.
Right, hold on. I just want to qualify because I was one of the people that said you should never stop questioning things, and I'll qualify that a bit further because it's a bit black
Right.
and white, and it doesn't need to be that black and white. Well, for a start, the only reason we're here is because we've questioned something that was supposed to be infallible, right? The idea that we're on a sphere,
Mhm.
but we've questioned it. So obviously, something that's
Right.
supposed to be demonstrably provable and true, we've questioned, and therefore we're here. But further to that, right, you can come into this arena, as we're talking Psyops on this show, and you can find yourself tied to a model that's going to be burnt as a straw man in false dichotomy if you're not careful. Now, when you hitch your wagon to azimuthal equidistant projections with little balls of light moving around them in certain fashions, then you fell victim to comprehending something rather than questioning it. And you're just going to fall along the same old tired path that you went down to end up being on the globe, albeit with a lot more programming and a lot more indoctrination at a very early age. We've discussed, so I don't need to disclaim again. But ultimately, you will, without comprehension, without critical thinking and only comprehension, come across the on a plate models, and that's what you'll accept because that's what you've been given and you can comprehend it. You know, so while I don't decry Mark Sargent in terms of what he does, he will describe how an azimuthal equidistant projection works. And when he explains to me why he does it in that way, is so that the people who are being technically criticised here, that don't have the critical thinking skills, can comprehend it as a new model. You go, okay, that's all well and good for somebody that's being brought into this arena, and then what are they going to do? They're going to demand answers rather than just questioning further. So when I say you don't stop questioning, it doesn't mean that certain inviolable truths need to continually be questioned. That's not what I mean. But I'm saying that you come to the obvious and observable flat nature of our reality, and then further to that realise that it's measurably and demonstrated on the measurements as being flat, no drop, then do you still go, okay, well, therefore this azimuthal equidistant projection must be correct, and obviously the sun is only 3,000 miles away and moving around in a circle, because I've stopped questioning things now. Well, no, you definitely need to keep questioning, because otherwise you'll just end up in someone else's camp, listening to some other guru.
Yeah, I was going to say, too, that if you know something, the truth can't contradict itself, or it's not the truth. If you know you measure the Earth flat because it's flat, stationary, like, the truth can't be opposed to that.
Exactly. Thank you.
I've got something to add on to that, and I'm curious to know if you've heard it, because it's similarly worded, but very important. It's, there are no true contradictions. Now, think about that for a moment. Because if one thing is true and another thing is claimed to be true, but it contradicts, there is no thing that contradicts in reality. There is only one of the two that has a false premise. It is misunderstood.
Yep, it's got
That
a
makes
law.
sense?
Yeah, it's got a law. It's called the law of non-contradiction.
Exactly. There we go.
Can't be A and not A simultaneously.
Right. The
And I feel
truth
like
is
there's-
immutable,
Well, let
but you still have to discover it, though.
Well, let me tell you what I told 10th Man this morning.
Oh,
Be
yes,
clear.
go ahead. Juicy.
The world, the world presents itself to flat to me every day, and I can't deny that. Now, for me to prove that it's not that, then I have to get out of the position that I'm in. I can't go there, so I have to trust someone else to tell me what the world is like outside of my perception. Now, do we trust the authorities in place that tell us the world is in a certain position? No, I don't trust NASA. I don't trust any of that. And I think most observations at ground level, and I've said this before, and I've even said on the show maybe once or twice, I think anything looking over at the horizon at best is inconclusive. At best. So you're trying to use something that changes, fluctuates to prove either side, it becomes a moot point. Because both are arguing either direction. If it's refracted, how can you truly measure something that's not in its true position? How can you? On both sides.
Okay,
Almost both ways.
Yeah, we argue that.
The sword goes both ways.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Yeah, but the first bit I'm getting to, because that's something that I can totally relate to, because the very first live stream I did with my wife, and that was the conclusion we drew, which is to say that, and it was the same thing that led me to Flat Earth, because I was like, I want to get higher to see the curve when I was a rep flying around all over the place. I knew from having a good understanding of heliocentrism that I couldn't get high enough in a commercial flight to see Earth curve. Now, we now know Earth curve's not the horizon, but back then I wanted to get higher. Now, when I came to Flat Earth, one of the discussion points with my wife on that very first live stream was, we can't get into a position to see it all. That would be the same desire, to get into a position to look down upon the entirety. And if you can't do that, you can't draw the conclusion. Again, that's a logical discussion.
Well,
what was the guy that was discussing earlier? Thrice. Exactly. When you make that point about the law of non-contradiction, you're applying logic, critical thinking, and that's beyond a lot of people. Sorry, Paul. Feel free to continue.
Wait.
I'll go after
Hold on, Eli's keen. Go on, Eli.
I heavily disagree with you, Paul, because, and here's why. Because you set it up saying, looking at the horizon is inconclusive. Well, it depends on the question you're asking. So again, this thing of right and wrong is like something that I'm trying not to deal with. It's more about, is it true or is it not true? So whenever you look up a PDF about, the geometry, or you're looking for, type in how to calculate the distance to the horizon, how do captains calculate the distance to the horizon, anything that has to do with the distance to the horizon, whatever you find in those PDFs is not true.
This is clearly going to get juicy in the after show, so if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, stay tuned, as there's going to be some Flat Earth on Flat Earth action. However, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell, so a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, or joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!